In 2015, a Chinese understudy named Helen Zai was captured by Los Angeles police for grabbing and mishandling a cohort. She thought her activities were simply fun-loving prodding among schoolmates and expected her folks would deal with the circumstance for her as they would in China. In court, she and her companions laughed uncontrollably and, surprisingly, requested that the appointed authority accelerate the preliminary since she had a birthday celebration arranged at home 1 month from now. Behind a shopping center in Roland Levels, Los Angeles, California, there is a confidential secondary school for grades 6 to 12 called Oxford Secondary School. It comprises of a few versatile homerooms and a little fundamental games field. Most of understudies at the school are global, basically from China and South Korea, with Chinese understudies making up the larger part. The majority of these unfamiliar understudies live with, have families close to the school, as their folks don't reside in the U.S. On Walk 2015, a 16-year-old Chinese young lady named Jia Mai from Oxford Secondary School attempted to prevent her classmate Helen Zai from pummeling her companion. Helen Zai compromised Mai, saying, "Get lost or I'll pound you too." The following day, May and a few companions were having a cookout at Roland Levels Park when Helen Zai and two others appeared and smacked her face when individuals in the recreation area asked what was happening. Helen Zai and her companions drove Maui to the Roland Levels Jewel Square. In a separated corner, they kept on beating her for an hour. One of the assistants told me, "We're beating you since you impeded Helen Zai yesterday." It's discourteous to her. All through the experience, Helen Zai kept on conveying intimidations, saying, "I'll recall this. Don't you dare even consider calling the police. My family has cash and associations. We could kill you one day." May was extremely terrified. She didn't inform her instructors or her receiving family concerning the episode and concealed her wounds to try not to be seen during her time at Oxford School. Helen Zai genuinely attacked a significant number of her female cohorts, every one of whom were Chinese and from Central Area, China. She never incited neighborhood or Korean understudies, nor did she menace understudies from Hong Kong and Taiwan. Helen Zai would fall back on brutality due to a look, a word, and disposition toward her, or basically in light of the fact that she could have done without somebody, or even due to her terrible state of mind. On the night of Walk 2015, only 2 days after May's attack, Camellia Liu got a WeChat message from her previous and current colleague Wan King Liu, requesting that she meet at a Savor Shop, Roland Levels Jewel Court. Camellia Liu had been attacked by this colleague previously and was stressed to stay away from any disaster. She asked her male companion Liu to go with her, and they went there. Upon appearance, they experienced Helen Zai, who requested that Liu leave, saying, "We young ladies need to examine something." Left as educated, Helen Zai then called a few Chinese understudies, including Coco Yang. Together they drove Camellia Liu to a segregated region in Roland Levels Park and attacked her during the assault. They crushed Camellia Liu's cell over and over, slapped her. Furthermore, requested her to stoop. They likewise utilized high heels to kick her in the head and body, splashed her with cold water, and effectively got rid of her garments and tossed them in a close-by garbage bin. Coco youthful consumed Camellia Lius areolas a few times with a cigarette, and one more understudy attempted to light her hair with a lighter. However, it fizzled on the grounds that it had been absorbed virus water before Helen Zai then, at that point, asked her new sweetheart John Zhang to get some scissors from home. Subsequent to getting them, Helen Zai trained somebody to trim Camellia Liu's hair. They constrained Camellia Liu to eat her own trim hair and to eat sand by binds her to the sand, which nearly choked out her. A sum of 12 individuals, generally Chinese understudies, were engaged with the torment of Camellia Liu. The torment endured from around 7 p.m. until the early hours of the following day, 5 entire hours. All through the experience, they were continually taking pictures and recordings with their PDAs. Because of the maltreatment, Camellia Liu's face was enlarged and wounded. Her hair was rumpled and she experienced issues remaining notwithstanding this. Helen Zai requested that she drive and drop off three assailants, including the person who had asked her out prior to leaving. Helen Zai remembered to compromise Camellia, Liu saying, assuming anybody asks, simply say, "It was your companion Liu who hit you. Each of the 12 of us can demonstrate it in the event that you say we hit you, nobody will trust you." In the wake of getting back to her receiving family with wounds, Camellia Liu's watchman saw and called the police on Walk 32,015 police in the Roland Levels people group of Los Angeles, California, got a call. They led an actual assessment and took photos of Camellia Liu. They likewise gathered proof and researched the scene. Not long after, the police captured 6 suspects, the 3 primary guilty parties being Helen Zai Coco Yang and John Zhang Hang, while the other 3 were minors. Those captured didn't think it was no joking matter. They trusted that as long as they didn't admit, there would be no observers who could uphold Camellia Liu. They figured their folks could go through a few cash and utilize their associations with get them delivered rapidly. 4 of the 6 captured were in any event resting at home on the evening of their capture, since they had gone to a club to have some good times in the wake of hassling Camellia. Liu. The day preceding Helen's eye was naturally introduced to a well-off family in Beijing in 1996. She was 19 years of age. At the hour of the episode, her folks ruined her, and she never needed to stress over cash anyway. They were frequently occupied, so she needed friendship. She had areas of strength for A since the beginning and shaped her gathering of companions in primary school, frequently harassing her cohorts and crossing paths with educators. Her folks attempted to train her in any event, removing her remittance, yet it didn't have an effect. When she was 14, her folks discovered that numerous Chinese guardians send their kids to school abroad to foster freedom and expand their perspectives. So they sent Helen to the U.S. Her life in the U.S. was troublesome at first. Her unfortunate English made it difficult for her to make companions, and she seldom addressed anybody each time she addressed her folks. She cried and communicated her craving to get back. Reluctant to coordinate into neighborhood life or really try to master English, her language abilities stay poor following 5 years, and she for the most part spent time with other Chinese understudies. Helen Zai changed schools and receiving families a few times and had a few sweethearts. She jumped at the chance to flaunt her connections and extravagance vehicles via virtual entertainment. However, none of her connections endured long. She even hurt herself after a troublesome separation. Subsequent to moving to Oxford School, Helen Zai met John Zhang and Coco Yang, and the 3 immediately became companions. John Zhang turned into her new beau. The beforehand desolate Helen Zai recaptured her certainty and became a dreaded by other Chinese tyrannical known as a harasser understudies. At the school, Helen Zai was effectively maddened and frequently utilized foul language via virtual entertainment, and in her discourse anyway, she recognized white educators and peered down on her Central Area Chinese colleagues, particularly the young ladies. In April 2015, the 3 principal associates didn't appear to understand the reality with their activities and the outcomes they were confronting. In court, they were lighthearted and, surprisingly, offered carefree comments. Helen Zai even requested that the appointed authority speed things up in light of the fact that she had a birthday celebration arranged at home. In June, the appointed authority set bail at $3 million for the 3 suspects who were 18 years of age, a record for bail sums for worldwide understudies. They were to be accused of grabbing attack and torment and could confront life in jail. When the guardians who had flown in from China learned of the earnestness of the case through interpreters, they were stunned. The court held shut hearings for the other 3 suspects, ages 15 to 18. After hearing the news, the excess 6 suspects immediately repurchased passes to China. When the police went to capture them, they found that the suspects had previously left the nation. Anyway, the examiner actually recorded charges against these 6 people who are currently boycotted, assuming they at any point set foot in the U.S. They won't be captured, except if they decide ever to enter the country, until the end of their lives. John Zhang's dad griped external the court. that his child had been wrongly blamed. He guaranteed that his child just assisted somebody with getting some scissors and didn't trim Camellia Liu's hair or actually hurt her. The guardians of the three underage suspects additionally expressed that their youngsters were just present and truly took part in no manner and communicated their absence of understanding in regards to the charges on June 3, 2015. The case was heard at the Pomona Unrivaled Court in California. The casualty, Camellia Liu, affirmed about the attack and referenced that she had been attacked by Helen Zai a year prior to the occurrence. 14 days before the episode, she was attacked by others, and Helen Zai was likewise present when inquired as to why she actually met with them, realizing she would be attacked. She said she was unable to keep away from it. They would hinder her at the school gate. And the attack would be more regrettable. Media reports recommended that Camellia Liu might have been John Zhang's ex, which further filled Helen Zai's animosity toward her in court. Helen Zai acted ver. Zai haughty appearance, outraged joke, and disdain toward the person in question. Witnesses and, surprisingly, the crowd and journalists present during Camellia Liu's declaration. She scowled at her with a savage look. She likewise regularly murmured to the mediator about the declaration of the observers. The appointed authority couldn't stand it any longer and unexpectedly halted the preliminary and cautioned Helen Zai, who relaxed her disposition. The adjudicator communicated doubt at the horrendous torment for this situation, contrasting it with the original master of the flies. About a gathering of English young men abandoned on a remote location and left to oversee themselves. With lamentable outcomes on the morning of the preliminary, the dad of one of the minor suspects was captured by the police. He was captured for attempting to pay off an observer to affirm for his little girl. Before the preliminary, he might have been accused of prevarication anyway, considering his fresh debut in the U.S. and different variables. The examiner at last dropped the charges against him. After the preliminary, Helen Zai, Coco Yang, and John Zhang Geich argued not blameworthy through their lega. Counselors, Helen Zai even attempted to utilize her past self-destruction endeavor to excuse herself anyway. After a court assessment, it was resolved that she was completely liable for her activities at the hour of the occurrence in January 2016. After a progression of conversations, legal counselors for the three fundamental culprits, Helen Zai, Ko Yang, and John Zehang, at last agreed with examiners to concede. They acknowledged charges of seizing and attack as a feature of the supplication deal. Examiners dropped the torment charges against the three. Did Helen Zai truly accept she was blameworthy when she confessed? That's what she knew. Whether she didn't confess, she could confront a sentence of 25 years to life on the torment charge, which could bring about existence detainment. In the end, Helen Zai was condemned to 13 years for grabbing an attack. Coco Yang was condemned to 10 years and John Zhang was condemned to 6 years. In the wake of carrying out their punishments, they will be extradited and prohibited from returning the U.S. Every one of the three have said they acknowledge the decision and won't pursue. Helen Zai's legal counselor read her letter of regret, in which she referenced that living alone in the U.S. had given her an excess of opportunity, which was one reason for her crook activities. She additionally wanted to concentrate on English hard while in jail. As I said, I'm not a terrible youngster in the event that I am decided by the 2 days out of my 19 years that caused me problems. I should seem to be the most horrendously terrible individual on the planet. I have perused that I am despised here and in China. I presumably merit being seen in that manner. Yet the other and better side of me is an individual who attempted to help others. While in prison, I have helped other people learn better English, and surprisingly, Spanish. I have gotten praises from the prison for my examinations. I need to thank my folks for aiding me through this piece of my life, particularly my mom, who has gone to and fro from China to visiting in prison. They sent me to the U.S. for a superior life and more full training. Along with that came a great deal of opportunity. As a matter of fact, an excess of opportunity that I was not used to in China. I was extremely loyal and happy living with my folks here. I became desolate and lost. In a later meeting, John Zhang's dad said that John had effectively attempted to change himself. While in jail, he understood his mix-ups and totally quit reaching Helen's eye in light of the fact that he would have rather not been impacted by her, his English better quickly, in jail a lot quicker than in school. At this point, John Zhang ought to have been set free from jail and got back to China. Educators at Oxford Secondary School knew about the harassing nearby. There were a few occasions where educators saw Helen's eye compromised Chamelia Liu. Furthermore, detailed it to the school organization. However, no move was made against Helen's eye. Different schools have punishments for harassing conduct, and in extreme cases, understudies could be sent back to their nations of origin. The Oxford school's activities obviously supported a culture of tormenting. This school enlists for the most part understudies from China and South Korea, with yearly educational cost arriving at $13,000, so its emphasis might be on drawing in additional global understudies. This case has created all in all a ruckus in China and has been broadly revealed in the media. In China, harassing in schools isn't viewed as a wrongdoing, except if it brings about death, and the police seldom get involved. A couple of years prior, it was not difficult to track down tormenting recordings of center school and, surprisingly, primary school understudies online. While such satisfied is more uncommon now because of stage guidelines, harassing itself has not diminished in China. Many guardians view harassing as a typical piece of life, as a youngster play, as opposed to as deliberate mischief. A few guardians of menaces accept that harassing can be endured insofar as no significant episodes happen. Guardians of harassed youngsters might encourage them to retaliate or to remain away and keep away from inconvenience. When schools truly do mediate, harassers are normally scrutinized or cautioned and might be removed, assuming that the damage to the casualty is extreme. The guardians of the harassers might pay cash to settle the matter, persuading these domineering jerk kids to think that cash and associations can take care of any issue in China. The act of paying off observers as for this situation is exceptionally normal. Numerous Chinese individuals have areas of strength for communicated for the sentences gave over in the USA. To the three primary culprits, some accept that the sentences were too permissive and that the torment charges shouldn't have been dropped. Their perspectives mirror a feeling of deference, lament that China actually has no legitimate limitations on school harassing, similarly as it has no regulations against creature savagery and the utilization of dog meat. When I was in secondary school, a young lady from a similar school, who was a year beneath me, harassed me one day as I was preparing to return home. She and a few different young ladies got me in the schoolyard. She smacked my face and afterward kicked me in the stomach as I fell. Numerous years have passed. However, I still distinctively recall that radiant evening. Different understudies passing by strolled by ceaselessly her, and nobody went to tell the educators she went after me, because on the grounds that she thought I gave her a disagreeable look when we passed eye to eye. To be straightforward, I knew that this harasser had recently gone after two different young ladies in my group, so I didn't give her a decent look when I saw her after the assault. I was furious for quite a while. Yet, I never pondered telling the educators or my folks, since I heard that her family had associations at the school. Thinking back now, I understood that I have little to no faith in the school, and I felt a specific trepidation as a result of their alleged associations. After that, I frequently got into contentions with educators, maybe as a method for venting my dissatisfaction. Years after the fact, my dearest companion and I ran into a male cohort from secondary school as we discussed our school days. I referenced the episode. I was totally shocked when he said, "For what reason did the domineering jerk single out you rather than your companion?" This casualty accusing disposition caused me to feel debilitated. The three minor wrongdoers get sentences of short of 1 year and won't be ousted upon finishing of their sentences. Moreover, 6 suspects get away from the lawful results and return to China to proceed with their prosperous lives. Their folks might try and send them to Australia, Singapore, or Thailand to study, albeit the three primary culprits get merited discipline with appropriate conduct, they could presumably have their sentences diminished. Also, keep on carrying on with lighthearted lives after their delivery. Depending on their family's abundance for the casualties, the damage they have endured won't ever disappear. The recollections of the mischief might be briefly stifled, yet when set off, they won't observe that it is ever truly gone.